95 north. So anyone coming into this new traffic pattern that wants to head to points north on 95, stay over to the right, and those two lanes will go right through in two protected lanes and take you right by the state offices and the on-ramps from Route 610 and the downtown entrance ramps. It'll take you by all of that in two separated lanes, putting you to 95 north. For commuters wanting to exit either on 146 or state offices, there'll be a separate lane of divided traffic for them to get over into the right-hand lane, and that lane will take you to 146 in state offices. Where further down, after the merges with 610 come into it, this collector road will then allow people coming from Route 610 to either go to the 610 or the downtown entrance ramps. It will allow them to either go to 146 or the state offices, and there'll be a separate lane that will take them to 95 north. So this separation of traffic in this way will eliminate a lot of the weaving that goes on in this area that creates the congestion that we've had for decades in this area. Every vehicle approaching and going to a destination will have dedicated lanes that will take you there. The signage will direct you to the proper lanes. Pay attention to the signage. And as I said, the two left lanes will get you to 95 north. The right lane will get you to 146 or the state offices. And there'll be a separate dedicated lane for people coming on from 610 and the Downtown Providence entrance ramps to get you to 95 or the state offices or 146. So in dividing traffic in this way, it will eliminate a lot of that weaving and a lot of the accidents that we've had in this area over the years. It's part of as I said, much larger project. So this is one component that is finished now and we're putting it into place. The rest of the project, we expect some 11 bridges in total that will be reconstructed as part of this project will be completed next year. We expect, for the first day or two, or maybe even the first week, as commuters enter this new traffic pattern for the first time, it's like many of the other changes in traffic patterns that we had. We can expect some congestion as people get used to the new traffic pattern. But I think once they get used to it, and once they begin to use it the way it is designed to be used, we're going to see some benefits in terms of the congestion and the number of accidents that we've had in this area over the last several decades.
So the Monday commute could be tricky?
The Monday morning commute could be tricky. We're watching the weather. That could add an element, but on this project we're going to have extra snow removal crews to make sure that come Monday morning, if the forecast that we're seeing stays the way it is, we expect our crews are set up to be able to manage that and to get the snow completely removed from this section so that people entering it, my instructions to the staff is try to make it look as much like summer as we can.
But for people confronting this for the first time Monday morning...
Yes. Even under normal conditions, you're right. For people that are encountering it for the first time, there will be initial several days of some confusion. We have signs and redundant signs and redundant signs that create a visual through this area that will allow people to know precisely where they're going. But as you said, people using it for the first time, there could be some confusion, so there'll be some slowdown. We expect some amount of congestion for the first few days. But once people get used to the new traffic pattern and the new signage, And they've used it a couple of times. I'm sure they'll see the benefits of it.
They'll love it.
They'll love it.
Really? And starting tomorrow, you had said weather dependent. What's the time frame for making this changeover?
It'll happen over tonight. So tomorrow morning, bright and early, it'll all be in place for any commuters tomorrow. That'll be encountering it for the first time. It'll also give us a couple of days over the weekend for our project managers and our traffic engineers to watch how people are responding. So if we have to make any last minute tweaks to the signage, we'll be able to do that.
What time tonight will crews be out there?
Tonight they'll be out there overnight, working. My folks can get you the exact times when it'll start.
And I may have misheard you, so just to clarify, I thought I heard you say keep right for the through lanes for 95, but it should be keep left, correct?
I'm sorry, yes. Did I say keep right?
I may have misheard you.
Okay, so for anyone traveling through on 95, you should keep left. The left 2 lanes will take you through to 95 north. And for anyone wanting to exit the state offices and the 146, stay to the right.
Are you sad at the end of the ferry service?
I'm agnostic on the ferry service. The ferry service was put in place to offer folks alternate modes of transportation, so that in the crossover from the West Bay to the East Bay on a daily commute, if your travel was affected by the closure of the bridge, we afforded people a ferry, a bike path, a pedestrian walkway, and buses to be able to take. 70,000 vehicles a day, or nearly 100,000, are choosing to do that in their vehicles. Too few people are using those other modes, so that the ferry is not a viable option for us to continue. It doesn't make economic sense, nor is it contributing to the reduction in traffic through that area. People are generally selecting the mode that is most convenient for them, and they're finding that with the bypass that we created, while it does add some time to their commute, it's still convenient enough for them to use their cars, to choose using their cars.
Big picture.
Mhm.
Ferry does not seem to be the way to go to ease congestion on the highways down the line.
No, it isn't. According to we've been keeping counts and statistics on this for the last 13 days.
I'm talking in the future. I'm talking for
In the future,
weaning people off of the car.
yeah, well, I mean, this gives us kind of a window into what opportunities we might have in the future with it. From an economic standpoint and from a usage standpoint, this would probably have been the most viable time for anybody to choose that option, given that using their vehicles was less convenient than ever, right? So even with that inconvenience, we had 3,500 people in the last 13 days, using something that cost us $1.47 million during that time. That is a cost to the taxpayers of over $400 per person that's using that on a daily basis. And that's not enough people that chose to switch modes from their vehicles to mass transit to make this economically viable.
And that tells you what?
Well, it says a lot about the choices that people make. You know, the concept of if you build it, they will come is not something that always works. I think this tested that with regard to ferries, and it showed that even in the most severe circumstances for people using their vehicles, 100,000 people a day are choosing to use their vehicles rather than take the ferry. It's just data to us.
Tell us about snow this weekend and preparation.
The snow, we're prepared. We have over 400 plows between our vendors and our RIDOT staff that are poised and ready to go. We'll be getting them out there a few hours before the snow starts, and it'll stay on through the duration. Our expectation is that by the commute on Monday morning, we will have the roads clear and down to pavement for commuters. We have ample personnel and private contractors and enough salt to pre-treat the roads. We'll begin pre-treating in advance of the storms.
Okay.
How do you expect the snow to specifically impact you over the Washington Bridge?
The Washington Bridge and the new viaduct opening, we're concentrating additional crews that will be dedicated to those areas to make sure that, as I said, my instruction to our maintenance staff is to make it look like summer at those two locations so that it doesn't further complicate people's navigation through those two critical areas.
Can you just give us a quick status update on how the Washington Bridge project is going after a couple weeks since
It's going according to what we've been reporting. The construction, the new construction on the existing bridge is proceeding. Where we gave an original estimation of 3 months. Right now, we're sticking to that. They work on a daily basis with the contractor to find ways to make that happen faster, better, cheaper.
Director, in the simulation now,
Yes.
there's 2 through lanes. Is there, and a little further up, there's 2 cars going through. Is there room to put like a plow stack in there? 'Cause it looks like
Yeah, there's plenty
tight.
of room for, we've accounted for winter operations in each of these. And as I said, we'll be closely monitoring through this snowstorm, the conditions and whether or not we have to make any additional changes.
And with regard to the Washington Bridge work,
Mhm.
what are they doing specifically?
They're having to reconstruct in the area of the, where these tension pins failed. They're having to totally reconstruct that area of the bridge across the entire span because there are pins that span the entire width of the bridge. So they're having to demolish those areas where those pins were in and actually reconstruct them with new kinds of pins and a new abutment that they will be embedded into.
New materials?
It's a slightly different methodology that we're using to attach them, but the key principle of the cantilever will remain in effect, or we would have to replace the entire bridge. But this bridge stayed viable for 60 years. We expect the repairs that we're making to last not that long, but well into the future.
Thank you.
Any other
Can
questions?
you comment on the tweet about an emergency yesterday with 95?
Yeah, the emergency yesterday lasted for at most an hour, 45 minutes. And it was a standard repair of a bridge joint that we do all the time with our crews.
So emergency or not emergency?
Well, you know, for 60 years, we've used the term emergency when it applies to that. Or we put out an emergency crew sometimes to fill a pothole during the last 60 years. I understand that word, the terminology for some of you that are new or because of the Washington Bridge, has kind of a heightened sense of sensitivity associated with it. So we'll modify our wording in the future to adapt to the new paradigm that's been created in the press and the public with expectations on that word. But it was, you know, it was a repair that we made quickly.
Gotcha.
Any other questions? Great, thank you.
Well done.
Thank you. Yeah.
Have a way to get,
Have a weekend.
down there to get
Yeah,
video from a safe spot.
Yeah, it's a start. You know, we're pretty close. So it's a process. They started, I think like
Thank
first
you.
payment.
All right.
Restripe it and then you
Yeah.
Oh, I gotta come here more often. Thank you.
As usual, beyond exciting.
I appreciate that. Okay.
So,
Just to let you
so
know.
like I said, the more,